Well, tonight on the podcast, we're going to get into the recent case. We have the survivors of the Tulsa Race Massacre back in 1921, how their case was recently dismissed from the Oklahoma Supreme Court. So that happened on Wednesday. A lawsuit was dismissed by the survivors of the 1921 massacre. It said dampening, they say, the hope of advocates for racial justice, that the city would make financial amends for one of the worst single acts of violence against Black Americans in U.S. history. They left as many as 300 people dead and a once thriving district in smoldering ruins. Now, if you know the story about Black Wall Street, this was an area where Black people built all that on their own. They could not be around the folks like that. And they was so successful, they were so thriving that these people tried to figure out a way to go attack their stuff, not only attack it, bomb it, burn it, and steal their things. During the historic accounts, people saying that they saw them going through their houses, stealing their clothes, stealing their jewelry, stealing their dishes, paintings, furniture. They were just being thieves and stole all their stuff and bringing it to their homes in the top. You know what I'm saying? Looting. But when Black people during an uprising, if they're looting a Target, oh, look at those Black people. Look at what they're doing. They just stealing. Like, y'all stole way more from Black people than any person that's out there during an uprising. Trust me on that. Black people, the theft of Black people's stuff, homes, land. I mean, it's so many stories and towns that's happening in this country, and they don't want to talk about it. Now, I say the 9-member court, upheld the decision made by the district court judge in Tulsa last year, ruling that the plaintiff's grievances about the destruction of the Greenwood district, although legitimate, did not fall within the scope of the state's public nuisance statute. Now, I say plaintiffs do not point to any physical injuries of property in Greenwood rendering it uninhabitable that could be resolved by way of injunction or other civil remedy. The court wrote in the decision. They said, today we hold that relief is not possible under any set of facts that could be established consistent with the plaintiff's allegations. Now, I said messages left Wednesday say with the survivor's attorney, Demario Solomon Simmons, were not immediately returned. And say the city said in a statement that it respects the court's decision and affirms the significance of the work and said the city continues to do in North Tulsa and Greenwood communities, adding that it remains committed to working with the residents and providing resources to support the communities. This according to the city. They say the suit was an attempt to force the city of Tulsa and others to make recompense for the destruction of the once thriving Black district by a white mob in 1921. They say on May 31 and June 1, the white mob, including some people hastily deputized by authorities, looted and burned the district, which is referred to as Black Wall Street. As many as 300 Black Tulsans was killed. Thousands of survivors, they say, were forced for a time into internment camps overseen by the National Guard. Now, when the Japanese were put in internment camps, ladies and gentlemen, they gave them $20,000 each under Ronald Reagan, a Republican, right? But Black Americans were put in internment camps more than once, actually, in this country, and yet we don't get compensated for our ancestors being in internment camps. And they say they burned bricks and fragment of a church basement. They say are about all that survived. They say of the more than 30 block historical Black district. They say the two survivors of the attack, Leslie Benningfield Randall and Viola Fletcher, who are both over 100 years old, sued in 2020 with the hope of seeing what their attorney called justice in their lifetime. A third plaintiff, Hugh Van Ellis, he died last year at 102. It said the court also determined the plaintiff's allegations did not sufficient support a claim for unjust enrichment, which is said are typical limited to contractual relationships. The other defendants in the case include the Tulsa Regional Chamber of Commerce, the Board of Tulsa County Commissioners, the Tulsa County Sheriff, and the Oklahoma Military Department. The lawsuit was brought under Oklahoma's public nuisance law. Arguing the actions of the white mob continue to affect the city today. It continued that Tulsa's long history of racial division and tension stemmed from the massacre, and they said the city and insurance companies never compensated victims, and therefore their losses, and the massacre ultimately resulted in the racial and economic disparities that still exist today. The lawsuit argued. They say it sought A detailed accounting of the property and wealth lost or stolen in the massacre, said the construction of a hospital in North Tulsa and the creation of a victims' compensation fund, among other things. And they say public nuisance claims are typically used to address local concerns like blighted homes, illegal drug dealing, or dangerous animals. Such claims are used in lawsuits. It said that states brought against tobacco companies in the 1990s and against opioid drug makers. It said, but many of those led to settlements rather than trials. Now, in 2019, Oklahoma's Attorney General used the public nuisance law to force opioid drug maker Johnson & Johnson to pay the state $465 million in damages. It said Oklahoma Supreme Court overturned that decision 2 years later. Well, let me say this. Some people are very disappointed by this. Some people take the wind out of your sails to hear this. Well, let me say something to you. When we tried to get off of the plantation, we didn't get off the first time we tried. We didn't get off the plantation the second time we tried. We tried a very long time to get off those plantations. But one day, we got off the plantation. You don't look at a loss as, or the folks trying to send a message to us like, oh, see, we ain't give you nothing. Y'all said the same thing about we ain't never getting off the plantation either. You said the same thing about we'll never amount to nothing in this country. You said segregation and Jim Crow will never end. You said segregation yesterday, today, and forever. You said that. Okay. The Klan at one point in time was running around doing whatever it wanted to do in this country openly. Let me say openly, not behind the scenes. And we have progressed all the way to that because we kept fighting. This should fuel you to keep fighting, to look at why they're rejecting it, and keep fighting, keep fighting, keep fighting. And let me tell you something. They want Black America to get off your square about reparations because they know you keep saying it, you keep fighting for it, you're going to eventually get it. They know that. They know who you are. Oh, yes, they know. That's why they're trying everything they can to undermine reparations, to get us to stop talking about it, because if we stop talking about it, it'll go away. If we keep talking about it, reparations are going to be paid. It kind of reminds you, even the scriptures talk about the persistent widow. The persistent widow wanted to talk to that judge and get what she wanted out of that judge. And even that story about the persistent widow, the judge said, listen, I'm going to give you, what you asked for just because you've been so persistent. Man, my God. And that's how we are. We got to be persistent. We got to keep fighting. Sure, people going to try to say, oh, you just want money. You want this. You doggone right. We want money. Just like you gave the Native Americans, just like you gave the Japanese, just like you gave people from Sandy Hook, just like you gave people money from 9/11. Yeah, exactly. You gave them money. You didn't give them a scholarship. You didn't give them a skilled trade. You didn't give them a housing voucher. You gave them money. The Oklahoma City bombing with Timothy McVeigh, they gave them money. They didn't give them education. You can go through case after case after case. Every time something happens to these folks, they get millions and millions of dollars. But what happens to Black folks, we get nothing. Oh, stop asking for money. Why you want money? I got to pay for it. But they never say no when their own people get it, right? So no, we got to fight. We got to keep doing it. And this the thing, you Black lawyers out there, you be on TikTok and online talking about Lawyer Bay and all this other stuff y'all talking about, right? Y'all in y'all fraternities and sororities. Or where are y'all to come out here and fight like Brother Johnny Cochran? Where y'all at? This is your time to shine. If you that brother or sister that got a law firm that will fight for reparations and you good at fighting, think about if you won reparations of Black America, you'd be the most famous lawyer in America. You go down in history like Johnny Cochran did as one of the great lawyers in Black America, like Thurgood Marshall or something like that. If you ever practice, it's going to explode because of the people that's going to start coming to you. Because if you win reparations, then everybody's going to come to you about, okay, what happened at the Lake Lanier, what happened at Slocum, Texas, what happened with the Atlanta race riot. It's all that could be up for grabs. All of that. Think about it. Winning reparations opened up the door for Black Americans to get paid for all the terrorism that has happened to us. That's why they don't want to pay reparations. That's why. Because they know they will owe a lot. But we got to keep fighting, brothers and sisters. We can't give up. And even if these two survivors that's still here, even if they don't see it in their lifetime, We got to keep fighting because they deserve that. Because they're not going to be with us forever. They deserve us to fight for them. I mean, they went through the worst of the worst and still didn't get any justice. And let me tell you something. These folks that's being so wicked, don't worry, brothers and sisters. They trust me. They are getting the harvest that they've sown. This is why their world is spiraling down. Their global influence is weakening. Other nations are starting to rise against them. They don't have the same global position they once had even 10 years ago, ladies and gentlemen. They don't. You can't keep doing things like this and expect God to bless you or bless your nation. And I promise you, the only reason this nation is still where it's at today is because Black America is still in it. If Black Americans would leave this place and go elsewhere, this place would be done. Literally. I wouldn't even give you 5 years. This place would be third world. And I could think about 10, 15, it'll be a failed state. Trust me on that. And them other groups that's here, they'll leave too because they're not going to stay. Because once we out the picture, they got to choose another group to oppress. You know what I'm saying? But, we're going to keep fighting. We're going to keep speaking up. We're going to keep calling them out. No, justice is going to be done, period.